What's the creepiest encounter you swear really happened? I used to work the closing shift at this tiny convenience store, and if you've ever worked nights, you know the last hour feels like time itself gave up. After about 10:45, the place turned into a ghost town. Just me, my phone, and the fluorescent lights buzzing like they were arguing with God. The counter sat maybe 6 feet from the front door. Right above it were the security monitors cycling through the cameras every 45 seconds or so, parking lot, outside the entrance, stockroom, coolers, storage shed, then back around again. After staring at those screens for hours, your brain starts treating them like background wallpaper. Around 11:20, I glanced up just as the parking lot camera came on. I saw a guy walking through the front door, black dude, Letterman jacket, grocery bag hanging from his right hand. Normal enough, except I looked down. The front door was still closed. Nobody. I literally blinked a couple times, like maybe my eyes needed to reboot. I figured the DVR was bugging out or replaying old footage. Old security systems are basically held together with dust and broken promises anyway. So I waited. The camera cycled through every angle again. I kept half an eye on the monitors, half on the door, trying to catch whatever stupid glitch I'd imagined. About a minute later, the front door swung open, and in walked the exact same guy. Same height, same Letterman jacket, same grocery bag in his right hand. Not kinda looked like him. The same guy. For a second, I felt like my brain got photocopied crooked. You know when you accidentally hear the same sentence twice and reality stutters for a second? It was like that, except reality looked me dead in the face and said, yeah, deal with it. The weirdest part? He didn't even buy anything. He wandered around for maybe a minute, looked at a couple shelves, then walked right back out like he'd completed whatever NPC side quest he came for. No rush, no conversation, nothing. I never told anybody because what was I supposed to say? Hey, I think the security camera briefly downloaded tomorrow. Yeah, I'd have sounded like the sleep-deprived night guy living off gas station coffee and bad decisions. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe my brain stitched two moments together, or maybe for about 60 seconds I accidentally watched reality buffering before it caught up. Either way, I stopped volunteering for closing shifts after that. Some paychecks just aren't worth wondering if time itself is messing with you for entertainment. Story 2. I still don't know what the hell I saw that night, and every time I tell somebody, I get the same look people give the guy who swears he almost fought Bigfoot in a Walmart parking lot. A buddy and I were driving around late one night on this back road that barely had any streetlights. Headlights were doing all the work. Up ahead, I spotted something crouched right in the middle of the road. At first, I figured it was a deer or a raccoon or some other woodland idiot waiting to lose an argument with a car. Its eyes lit up when my headlights hit them, so my brain filed it under animal and kept rolling. Then I got maybe 15 feet away. It stood up, not like an animal, like a girl, small frame, long hair, just standing there in the middle of the road looking straight at us. I absolutely stomped the brakes. The tires screamed, my heart tried to eject itself from my body, and my brain basically blue screened. You know that split second where every horrible possibility shows up at once? Hit her, miss her, die, go to prison, become the world's worst local news story? The car stopped. The road was empty. Nothing. No girl, no animal, no footsteps, no running into the woods, just empty asphalt like reality hit control plus Z. My buddy was staring at me like I'd lost my damn mind. Dude, what are you doing? So now I'm sitting there trying to explain that I almost turned a ghost into roadkill, which surprisingly doesn't make you sound any more believable. A few minutes passed before he got real quiet. Then he goes, "Did it look like a girl?" That sentence hit me harder than seeing the thing. I asked him what he meant. He said a couple weeks earlier, he'd been driving that exact same stretch of road with his sister. She slammed on the brakes because she'd seen what looked like a girl standing in the road. Same spot, same thing. He hadn't seen it then either. So apparently whatever was out there has the customer service policy of only terrifying one person per vehicle. People tell me it had to be a trick of the headlights or exhaustion, maybe. But I've driven that road 100 times since, and every single time I catch myself easing off the gas before I get to that spot. Because once your brain convinces itself reality can blink, you never fully trust the dark again. Story 3. I don't know if my house is haunted or if reality just likes pulling little pranks before breakfast, but this happened once, and I've never come up with a good explanation. It was the middle of winter, around 6 in the morning. I woke up needing to pee because apparently your bladder has absolutely no respect for REM sleep. As I walked out of my bedroom, I could see straight down the hallway toward the office. Now, that office door always drifts open on its own because the frame's a little crooked. It's one of those slow, lazy creaks that takes like 8 seconds to fully open. We've all gotten used to it. It's basically part of the house's personality, except that morning, it didn't drift. It slammed. Wham! The thing flew all the way open like somebody on the other side had kicked it off its hinges. I just stopped, stared at it. Middle of winter, every window shut tight. Furnace wasn't even running. Everyone else in the house was dead asleep. There wasn't any logical reason for that door to move, let alone launch itself open like it had unresolved anger issues. I stood there for maybe 3 seconds waiting for, I don't know, a burglar, a ghost, the world's most aggressive raccoon. Nothing. Complete silence. And here's the part nobody believes. I was too damn tired to care. Seriously. My brain looked at the situation, looked at the amount of sleep I still had left, and basically said, if a demon wants something, it can leave a note. So I went to the bathroom, did my business, walked right past the office without even looking inside because I wasn't about to reward whatever that was with eye contact. That's how horror movies happen. Curiosity is just natural selection wearing a fake mustache. Then I crawled back into bed and went straight back to sleep. People always ask why I didn't investigate. Investigate what? Best case scenario, it's nothing. Worst case scenario, I successfully meet whatever made the door try out for WWE. Neither option sounded worth sacrificing another hour of sleep. If ghosts exist, they learned something important about me that morning. They are absolutely no match for someone running on 4 hours of sleep and pure, weaponized laziness. Story 4. This happened about a year ago, and I still catch myself thinking about it every time I walk past my daughter's room at night. I was up way too late watching movies when the late-night snack demon started whispering in my ear. You know the one, the little voice that's like, you don't need chips, but it'd be a shame if somebody ate all of them. So I headed downstairs. My daughter's room is right across from mine, and I noticed her bedroom door was open as I walked by. Didn't think anything of it because my brain was already focused on whatever questionable snack decision I was about to make. A few minutes later, I'm coming back upstairs. I get to the top, start turning toward my bedroom, then I hear it. Crystal clear. Daddy? Can you close the door? My daughter's voice. Not kind of like her, not maybe, her. It came from her room, exactly where you'd expect her to be if she were sleeping in there. I didn't even think about it. I turned around, reached over, and quietly pushed the bedroom door shut like I'd probably done 1,000 times before. Then I went into my room, sat down, turned the TV back on, and about 10 seconds later, my brain finally caught up. My daughter wasn't home. She was spending the night at my parents' house. You know that feeling when your stomach just drops for absolutely no reason, like an elevator cable snapping in your chest? Yeah, that. I sat there staring at the wall for another few seconds, hoping I'd somehow remembered wrong. Then I got up, walked back across the hall, and opened her bedroom door. Empty, bed perfectly made, no kid, no TV, no toys making noise, nothing, just an empty room. I immediately woke my wife up because apparently if you're going to have a psychological breakdown at 2 in the morning, marriage means dragging somebody else into it. She just looked at me like I'd finally lost the plot. You were tired. It was probably the TV. Maybe. She's probably right. Sleep deprivation turns your brain into a discount special effects studio. It'll manufacture some wild stuff if you give it enough caffeine and not enough rest. But here's the thing. I didn't hear a random noise that kind of sounded like words. I heard my daughter's voice, the same sleepy little tone she'd used 100 times before, asking me to close her door at bedtime. It was so normal that I obeyed before I even thought about it. That's the part that sticks with me. Whatever happened, my brain didn't question it for even a second. It just heard my little girl asking for help, and I answered. I still don't know whether that's creepy or somehow worse. Story 5. I used to clown my buddy for saying his grandma's cemetery-side house was haunted. Then one night I watched this thing, about toddler-sized, except it moved like somebody hit fast forward on a shadow, bolt through the living room, cut across the dining room, and vanish into the kitchen. I just froze. My friend looked at me and went, "You saw that kid too, right?" Yeah. No doors, no people, nothing. His grandma barely looked up and said, "Oh, that happens all the time." Cool. Awesome. Love that for us. That's like hearing your mechanic say, "Yeah, the engine screams sometimes." My friend even slept with the TV turned toward the wall because he'd wake up and see people standing behind him in the reflection, just watching. I laughed at ghost stories before. That house collected my confidence like overdue rent. Story 6. This was over 10 years ago, but I still can't sleep with the head of my bed against a window without thinking about it. Buddy and I were in Japan for the first time, tagged along with one of those tour groups, then stayed an extra night at this tiny hotel in East Ikebukuro. During the trip, our tour guide kept feeding us ghost stories over beers, the kind everybody laughs at until you're alone later. His favorite was, if the bed's against the window, don't sleep there. Spirits come through the glass. Yeah, okay, man, sure. Then we checked into our room, tiny as hell. They gave us one double bed instead of two singles, which was already annoying enough. But the second I looked over, there it was, headboard shoved right up against the window, like somebody designed the room with bad decisions and pure disrespect. We joked the guide was full of crap, because honestly, where else were they going to put the bed? The room was basically a walk-in closet with plumbing. We grabbed dinner, came back, crashed. Sometime in the middle of the night, I got ripped awake by a door slamming. I sat straight up. At the foot of the bed was a woman wearing this blue kimono covered in butterfly patterns, long black hair, just sitting there, not moving, not saying anything, just existing. You know when your brain blue screens, but your body keeps running? That's exactly what happened. Like every survival instinct clocked out for lunch. So what did I do? I dove under my pillow. Yeah, because apparently I thought a pillow was military-grade paranormal armor. Brilliant. Absolute galaxy brain move. I kept thinking, there's no way this is real. Instead of looking again, I slowly slid my foot toward the end of the bed. My logic was somehow, if I don't feel anything, I imagined it. Which is the dumbest experiment ever, because I never bothered asking myself what the backup plan was if I actually touched somebody. Then my foot hit it. Not a body. A dip. Like someone was sitting on the mattress exactly where I'd seen her. You know how memory foam sinks under someone's weight? It felt like that. Invisible, but absolutely there. My entire body locked up so hard I thought my spine filed for workers' comp. I yanked my foot back, started sweating through my shirt, and just kept repeating the Lord's Prayer over and over until I either passed out or my brain rage quit the situation. Next morning, I woke up around 6. My friend was already fully dressed with his bags packed by the door. I asked, "Did you hear or see anything last night?" He didn't even look at me, just said, "I don't want to talk about it. Let's go." That was it. We checked out, never brought it up again, and honestly, that silence messed with me way more than if he'd laughed and called me crazy. It was like we both accidentally watched the same horror movie, except nobody wanted to admit we were in it. Story 7. I was 15 when this happened, and even now, it still sits in the back of my head like a corrupted file that refuses to delete. A bunch of us flew down to Los Angeles for one of those church youth convention trips that everyone only signed up for because it came with Disneyland afterward. Let's not pretend anybody was there for spiritual growth. We were there for Space Mountain and getting out of school for a couple days. We landed stupid early while it was still dark. Everybody piled onto this big Greyhound-style bus heading away from the airport. Most of the group immediately passed out. My best friend and I didn't. We're sitting there staring out the window because, honestly, what else are two 15-year-olds going to do at 5 in the morning? As we're rolling through some neighborhood, we pass this corner house. 2 people come running out. One takes off like his life depends on it. The other calmly pulls out a pistol. Pop. The first guy drops. Then another shot. Just like that. No dramatic movie music. No yelling. No car chase. Just done. It happened so fast, my brain barely had time to process that I just watched somebody get executed from a moving bus. My buddy and I whipped our heads toward each other at the exact same time. That look said everything. Did we seriously just see that? Neither of us spoke for a second, because what do you even say after something like that? Eventually, we found a couple of the adult chaperones and told them exactly what we'd seen. They basically laughed it off. No, you didn't. That's it. Not, where? Not, are you okay? Not, should we tell somebody? Just, no, you didn't. Like reality was apparently optional if the itinerary included Mickey Mouse. Looking back now, that's honestly the part that bothers me the most. Adults are supposed to at least pretend to investigate when 2 kids tell them they watched a murder. Instead, they acted like we were making up stories because they didn't want to deal with it. Bureaucracy with mouse ears. This happened on February 16th, 2005. There were no smartphones. Nobody was recording everything. We were taking pictures on disposable cameras like little archaeological artifacts from the ancient times. I've spent years randomly searching old homicide reports, newspaper archives, anything I could find, trying to match what we saw. Nothing. No article, no police report I could track down, nothing that fit. Maybe we somehow misunderstood what happened. Maybe the angle from the bus played tricks on us. Maybe. But two 15-year-old kids saw the exact same thing at the exact same moment, and neither of us has changed the story in over 20 years. People say memory gets fuzzy over time. Sure, but some moments don't fade. They just sit there, replaying in perfect HD, while everyone else insists you imagine the whole damn thing. Story 8. Back when I was a teenager, I worked at this tiny gas station in my hometown. Nothing ever happened there besides people buying cigarettes, complaining about gas prices, and asking where the nearest bathroom was. It was the kind of place where the biggest emergency was the coffee machine deciding it had rights. One afternoon, I was in the back storage room restocking soda when this guy walked in and scared the absolute hell out of me. I didn't even hear him coming. He apologized for sneaking up on me and asked if I could give him directions to Washington, D.C. No GPS, no smartphones. Just a teenager with questionable directional skills trying to remember highways off the top of his head. I told him the best route I knew and pointed him toward Philadelphia. He thanked me, smiled, and headed back outside. I happened to glance through the window as he got into his car. There was another person sitting in the passenger seat, a kid around my age. He turned and looked straight at me. I've never been able to explain that look. It wasn't angry, it wasn't scared, it was just cold. Like somebody forgot to install the part of him that makes people human. You know how some eyes feel completely empty, like staring into a house where nobody's lived for years? That's the closest comparison I've got. The car drove away. I went back to stacking soda. That was it, or so I thought. A while later, I'm watching the news when they finally arrested the DC snipers. The second they showed their faces, my stomach dropped so hard I thought I was gonna throw up. It was them. The man who asked me for directions, and the kid who couldn't stop staring at me. I just sat there frozen, thinking about how casual the whole interaction had been. We talked about highways for maybe 30 seconds. That's it. The kind of conversation you forget before your shift even ends. Except this time, it wasn't some random traveler. It was two of the most wanted people in the country. People always ask what they look like, or whether I noticed anything strange. Honestly, no. That's almost the worst part. The guy was polite. Completely normal. The kind of customer you'd forget 5 minutes later. The only thing that stuck with me was that stare from the passenger seat. Even before I knew who they were, it made the hair on my neck stand up. Maybe that's hindsight messing with my memory. Maybe my brain filled in the blanks after seeing the news. I don't know. I've only told a handful of people because it sounds like one of those stories everybody's uncle claims happened to them. But every now and then, I'll remember giving directions to a complete stranger and wonder how differently that day could have ended if he'd decided I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Story 9. This one's impossible to explain without sounding completely unhinged, but screw it. A few years back, my wife, the kids, and I pulled over at these cliffs near our place to take in the view. Perfect weather, ocean behind us, everybody smiling. I lined the kids up near the edge for a picture. Yeah, I know, dumb already. I told them, take one little step back. They did. Every single one of them disappeared over the cliff. I heard the screaming before my brain even caught up. That sound, man, it wasn't movie screaming. It was the kind that tears through your chest, like somebody grabbed your ribs and started playing them like a xylophone. I remember running to the edge, looking down and seeing, no, I still don't even like thinking about it. Then I woke up, absolutely drenched, heart trying to escape through my throat. It wasn't one of those weird dreams where you're riding a giraffe through Walmart. It felt real enough that my brain had already started planning funerals before I even opened my eyes. I got up to use the bathroom, mostly because there was zero chance I was falling back asleep after that nightmare. On the way back, I checked on all the kids, just to prove to myself my brain was being an absolute jerk. The older ones were dead asleep. My youngest, 5 years old, wasn't in bed. For about half a second, every drop of blood left my body. Then I looked down. She'd rolled out of bed and was still asleep on the carpet like nothing happened. Kids have the structural integrity of rubber chickens, I swear. But right beside her was the bedside lamp. It had fallen over when she hit the floor. The bulb was pressed directly into the carpet, burning a dark circle into it. You could smell it. Another couple of minutes, and I'm pretty sure it would have caught fire. So now I'm standing there holding this stupid lamp, shaking like an idiot, realizing the nightmare yanked me awake at almost the exact moment my daughter accidentally created a future house fire. People tell me it was just a coincidence. Maybe, but that dream dragged me out of bed at exactly the right time. And if that's random, then random has one hell of a twisted sense of humor. Story 10. I was probably 12 or 13 when this happened, and I've spent years trying to convince myself there had to be a normal explanation. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night because I could smell my dad's cologne. Not just a faint whiff. The whole room smelled like he just walked through it, which made absolutely no sense because my parents were divorced and my dad lived about an hour away. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near our house. Half asleep, I remember thinking, that's weird. Then I did what every exhausted kid does, rolled over and went right back to sleep. The next morning felt off immediately. My mom hadn't woken me up for school. At first I thought I'd overslept, but the house was just quiet. The kind of quiet that makes your stomach tighten before your brain even knows why. Then my mom told me, my dad had died the night before. I don't even remember what I said after that. Everything from that morning feels like somebody smeared the edges of the memory with their thumb. What stuck with me wasn't the phone call. It wasn't the crying. It was that smell, his cologne, exactly the one he always wore. I never told anybody about it. Honestly, it sounded ridiculous. The last thing a grieving kid needs is someone explaining that stress can make your brain do weird things. Maybe it can. Maybe that's all it was. So I kept it to myself. More than 10 years went by. I was around 23 when I finally mentioned it to my mom. I expected her to smile politely and tell me grief does strange things. Instead, she just stared at me. Then she quietly said she was glad I finally told her, because she'd never told anyone her own experience either. That same night, right around the time my dad passed away, she'd been startled awake for no reason. Our dog was sitting at the front door, tail wagging, just staring at it, not barking, not scratching, just happily watching the empty doorway like somebody he loved had just walked in, or was about to leave. Dogs lose their minds over squirrels, delivery drivers, and the sound of a cheese wrapper from 3 rooms away. But that night, he just sat there wagging his tail at nothing. Maybe there are explanations for both of our experiences. Maybe grief started before we even knew we were grieving. I honestly don't know, but every now and then, I'll catch that same cologne on a random stranger in a grocery store, and for one split second, I'm 12 years old again, wondering if some goodbyes happen in ways we'll never be able to explain. Hope you enjoyed the stories. See you in the next one.